Well, hello, I'm Lynn Fishman, and I'm coming to you from the 41st Annual International Conference on Science and Spirituality here in Montreal, Canada. This conference is sponsored by the International Institute of Integral Human Sciences. I am thrilled to have Dr. Christine Page with me. It's her second time that we've spoken together. She has been called the mystical physician. She is an international leader in healing and transformation. Dr. Page has written several bestsellers, including Frontiers of Health and The Healing Power of the Sacred Woman, which I have right here. Go. Christine, so nice to have you. This interview I would love to devote to women's health.
Good.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you, women are stressed out. I see that they're having a difficult time dealing with the responsibilities of work and home. And a lot of the symptoms of stress are medicated away. What can we do about this?
Women are definitely multitasking. They are trying to be a jack of all trades and sometimes master of none, but also wanting to aspire naturally to be leaders in their own professions, many of them, as well as being good mothers, good wives, good children, daughters, etc. And I feel that women often are putting in many more hours than their male colleagues because they go home and they're often driving around and washing and doing other things. However much our men are really supporting us, women have that inner desire to nurture. It can't be taken away. What we are noticing is that women, however, don't work on a linear passageway, i.e. we're not the same all month. Mm-hmm. We have cycles. And it's those cycles that we need to honor as women. And when we've got out of rhythm with our cycles, we get sick.
So how can partners support women in this cycle that you're speaking about? What do they need to know?
So from a male perspective of a partner,
yes.
They need to understand that we are not the same, that we're more like the moon, so that we have a period of time after our period, for instance, if we are still menstruating, where we are actually very creative, very active. Then at the full moon, we're very sociable. But then there's this waning moon that says, give me time out. And a week before our period, we want to be left alone. We don't want to be taking care of people. And if our partners could understand it's not to be criticized like, oh, it's that time of the month, but to be honored, that would do us a great deal of good.
Oh, I love that. So a little nurturing there would help.
It really would, because in our deeper understanding, women's period is a time where we cleanse ourselves, we clear ourselves of old energies of the past month. And we're also doing that for our families. So women take on the emotions of the men around them, of the family, and literally they transform that into their blood, which they then shed. So if the men knew that they were clearing everything out for the men, they would say, please, how can I help you? How can I nurture you?
And women are so programmed for that time of the month, get out the Motrin or whatever, and I don't think that they have that emotional and spiritual awareness that this can be a great time for review. Could you talk a little bit about that?
My saddest thing is that there are so many young women now who are either using patches or injections, pills, to get rid of this inconvenience. And unfortunately, my own profession as a doctor are encouraging that. Oh, you don't want to be bothered by that period. We could have 1 or 2 a year if you want. That is no good for women. It's no good for humanity. Mm-hmm. When we have our period, it's the most powerful time for a woman. We not only get rid of old energy, clear ourselves, but we also are nurtured and then we're inspired. And if women could understand this is their moment of glory, this is where they are spiritual leaders, much more than when they're trying to be mini men out in the world.
So how do they cope with the emotional upheaval that can come as part of that?
So really, let's say a week before the period, if your periods are relatively regular, that should be a time when you say, I'm not taking on any new projects. I'm going to have a little bit more time to myself. Please sort yourself out a little bit more. Delegate information. And recognize that that's a time where you need to go inside and say, what am I letting go of this month? And what have I learned about this month? What's the wisdom I've learned? 60% of women have PMS, premenstrual syndrome.
Yes.
That's a huge number of people. If 60% of men had something every month, we'd be looking at this.
Right.
Instead, we're getting it medicated, as you said, and this is not okay.
Yes.
So it's for women to look at their diary, note, no new projects now.
Right.
I'm off to have a massage.
Yes, stepping back with a little bit of a
Yes.
perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned something that I really love. You say you call the body our soul messenger. Can you elaborate?
Our body is our greatest friend. I am a doctor now of 40 years, and I have never seen the body actually let us down. We let it down. Now, people will say, no, look, I got cancer, I got arthritis. I know that prior to you getting the physical illness, there is often a message. And the body's saying, or the emotions are saying, excuse me, could you just listen? And we don't. And sometimes we use those words like, I need a break. And then we break our leg. Or I need to get out of here. I can't, my heart isn't in it. And we have a heart attack.
Okay. Oh, yes. Share a little bit more about that.
So, lower back pain. I don't feel supported. The back goes out. The body never gets it wrong. Whatever you're talking about, I saw red, you get red eyes.
Right.
I'm choking on it. You're choking. We have the language.
Right. So you're saying that whatever is going on in our life on the outside,
the body will mirror it and try and give it as a messenger. And that's my sad point. Not only does it stop you in your tracks, but we as doctors just say, let's just take that organ out.
Yes.
And we say, oh, you don't need that. Instead of saying, wow, thank you, messenger. What do I need to hear? My first heart attack, where am I not having any joy?
Yes.
Where do I feel stuck? That's heart attack. Where do I feel I'm lonely? That's heart attack.
And this could apply to men as well.
Oh,
No.
men and women.
Yeah.
Yes, that we know that the biggest problem for a heart attack is feeling that you're lonely. You have no community. And you can be lonely in a crowd. We have social media now, but nobody's actually looking and talking with each other.
Yes.
This eye-to-eye contact, this touch, heals the heart.
Yes. So are there any rituals that you
And
could,
women's, may I
yes.
say that heart disease in women, I never saw it as a young doctor. We only ever saw it after menopause. Now we have wards full of young women having heart attacks and dying from heart attacks.
At a younger age.
At a younger age, we used to say, oh no, they're protected by their hormones. No. They've become like the men. So in the past, I would say to a man, you need to take time out. Your heart is telling me that. He would say, I have a pension, I have children, I have to put through college, etc. And the women would say, no, I can take time out. Now the women are telling me, I have a pension to get, I have a mortgage.
But what do you answer to that? Because that's all valid. What
I
do
have
you
to say 6 foot under, that doesn't really matter, does it? I have seen too many people die. Only a doctor can say that. But actually nobody gives a damn sick when you are dead. They want you there. They never write and say, loving father who never saw his daughter graduate.
We live a very busy life.
We live that, oh, look what they did. They were CEO. Oh, they achieved this. They don't talk about the heartbreak that the family are left with when someone has a heart attack and dies.
So right. So what rituals could we use on a day-to-day basis to stay in touch with ourselves?
Often it's as simple as just breathing out. Many a time we're like, go!
Right.
So just sometimes, breathing out and holding your breath out as long as you can before the next breath quietens your mind. Simple ritual, rooting yourself into Mother Earth. A lot of times we're up here in our heads, running around, getting dizzy.
Right.
Just imagine you have magnets on your feet. Get pulled into the earth and let yourself put roots into the earth. It just changes the whole dynamic.
So you mean visualization?
Visualizations, all of these things. But you can do that standing.
Or getting out in nature.
Getting out in nature, of course, getting out in nature. But sometimes people get out in nature with their headphones on.
Exactly.
Or
their cell
on their phone. I watch them.
Right.
So if you're going to be in nature, feel the ground under your feet. Listen to the birds. Feel the wind. And don't have a massage if you're going to lie there and think of the next 10 things you've got to have. Do.
Right.
So we need to find occupations, which again men and women used to have, which involve our hands, involve our awareness of touch. For instance, what I'm saying is when I'm out weeding the garden or in the garden, I'm much more focused to the earth than if I go jogging, because I'm back in my head again.
Right.
We have to find activities like making food, not just buying it.
Right.
Get your hands in the food.
Right.
That's why it's so important. That would help us all get into our bodies. Being in our bodies helps us to be more in tune when she's out of balance.
And to pay attention.
Pay attention.
Yes.
So when something happens, see it not as see it as a distress call.
Right. Not like a
hello,
violation. Yes.
Don't take just the nearest painkiller you can take. I get very upset when people say, my shoulder was giving me pain when I played tennis, so I took some tablets. Now I'm playing tennis again. It's like, hello, your shoulder said stop playing tennis.
Right. Are you paying attention to the reason?
Are you paying attention?
Yeah. So, Christine, we know the mind and the body are connected. Without feeling mentally and emotionally well, our bodies, it's difficult to feel physically well. So what could you recommend in that way?
Women have this wonderful connection to their emotions, but not all emotions are allowed to be expressed. And I would only ask that women understand that when they feel angry or irritated or frustrated, that's telling them something needs to change. Sometimes we just need to let out whatever we're holding on to, rather than crunching up our shoulders or gritting our teeth.
Yes.
We need to tell the person or write it down or scream. Other times we have to say, I've been feeling irritated for a while. Maybe I need to change. Because that's what irritation is saying to us. It's the energy of movement. Other times we need to cry. And in ancient times, during our period, during the time of our period, we would come together as women and share our stories. And in the sharing of them, we would share our emotions. And that would be the healing. So feeling really is healing for women.
What do you say to, especially young women, they have a hard time dealing with what they consider negative emotions? And you were just saying there is no such thing as negative when it comes to feelings. But how do you deal with feelings that can be a little overpowering?
I think, again, to share them. Often, and I wondered whether you were intimating that, was often it's other people's negative emotions we have difficulty with.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So that when someone goes on and on about the same problem, we need to say, sister, enough already.
Right.
I've heard that story. I feel that isolation is one of the keys to why young people especially are getting depressed. They're getting overwhelmed. And I want to help young people to understand that they are often overly sensitive to the energies around them, and they feel them, and then they think they're their own.
Good point.
So being able to create healthy boundaries and at least be able to say, that isn't your energy. Let's teach you how to root yourself into the earth. Create healthy boundaries. Sometimes it's about putting a wonderful bubble around yourself and say, I'm not taking on anybody else's energy.
But that's very big. It can be difficult to know what belongs to us and what doesn't.
So one of the things that, of course, as we learn as we get older, is that we don't have to fix other people and we don't have to take on their energy to be loved. So many a time, as we're young, we're taking on these energies in a relationship, in a friendship, because we want to belong, we want to feel good about ourselves. And it is about teaching each of us that we're okay as we are, and that if we're going to be a good friend, we don't take on that emotion.
Yes.
And we mustn't prostitute ourselves as women to taking on energy just to have a relationship.
Yes, so what do you mean
Whatever
by that?
our age.
Yes, so what do you mean by that?
I would say is we need to respect ourselves. It's the biggest thing that I think men and women need to learn, is that I don't have to be a certain way for you to love me. And that if you want me to be a certain way and I don't want to be that way, then goodbye.
I love that.
But I meet a lot of young women in their 20s who are holding on to unhealthy relationships just to be in relationship. And I'm very sad because I thought that was my problem and in my generation.
Yes. Let's talk spiritual healing.
Yes.
and spiritual
well-being. May I
well-being.
just take that last step back?
Yes, please do.
Because we have a lot of teenagers who are acting out sexually in a very unhealthy way that is very disrespectful for them. For a woman, when she is for her sex, she is the sexual transformative vessel. And unless she is experiencing pleasure, there is no point in any man entering her or having a relationship with her. In other words, her pleasure comes first. And if she's not having pleasure, she shouldn't be having sex.
And I wonder how many women today at home really are taught that.
Yeah, and a lot of the practices that our young women are doing are only going in one direction. That is not okay. It's not respecting the body.
So you brought up some very valuable points as far as our young women today. How can we be better role models for our young daughters?
I think that whether we are fully aware of it, our first role model is our mother. Many women don't have a good relationship with their mother, and therefore they take some of that energy or they abandon the whole situation. But daughters watch their mothers. We are marinated in the emotional soup of our mothers while we're still in the womb. So especially around puberty, a young girl is watching her mother and saying, what's she doing? Does she respect her body? Does she like her body? Does she feel good about herself? How is she in relationship with my father? Because we base our relationships on what we see goes on between our mother and father. As we go into our teens, of course, that exemplifies and it gets larger. But I want to say is that if you want to help your young daughters or granddaughters, is be the example. And that will change the way in which our young people look at themselves. Don't tell them what to do, act it out, be it.
That's wonderful. Wonderful answer. And about spiritual healing, what would you like to say?
So spiritual healing to me means tapping into our soul, tapping into our inner self. Each of us has a unique messenger, a unique lover. The part that says, I love you, I want you to be all that you are this life. And to help every young woman, every woman know that there is that part inside her. Sometimes we're looking for information out there. We ask people questions, but to be able to listen to our intuition. Most people know when they get sick. They tell me, I know why I got cancer. I know why I got my heart attack. I wasn't enjoying life. I know why I got my bad back. I wasn't feeling supported. We know these things. Our body is calling out to us. And really to just honor, keep a journal. Say, wow, I'm feeling this way and it's been going on for some months. Yes, find a therapist, but really your therapist is inside you. And it's having the courage to change. Sometimes we don't want to hear our intuition speak to us because it's asking us to step away from something. The fact of the matter is when we do, all the doors open. And we're never alone. We're never alone. When we step out into that moment where we're no longer in a destructive relationship or a destructive pattern, the doors open and we have that spiritual support.
Right, so what you're saying, we have to be willing to step into that unknown.
Yes.
There's usually an unknown, would you say?
Right. That's right. You know, and I've been with people who feel there's no other way out, and you say, well, then there's only one way. Go through that door. Right. It needs to happen. And you can ask for help. You can ask your guidance and for spiritual guidance and say, if I'm not meant to be here in this situation, make it really clear now. And maybe you could say in the next 24 hours, you know, and maybe you'll meet 3 people who all say, I'm about to leave a job.
Right.
And you'll go, okay, thank you.
So what you're saying is follow up on what you've received.
And I go back to women do best together. Our power is in togetherness. So build women's circles. I have women's spirals. Women do best together, and when we are honest with each other, not from a place of shaming someone or judging, but when we can say, hey sister, don't do that to yourself. Women have got separated. It's not the same on the internet or having the odd coffee.
Right.
Women need to make time to have connection with girlfriends where they really talk about things that matter.
What has been one of your biggest insights on your path?
I think listening to my intuition that I'm speaking about, and also trusting that when things don't work, there's a very good reason for it. It's not something I've done wrong. I think sometimes we get caught up in the shame and we feel we get stagnant. So that when a door shuts, know that that was right. That somewhere your soul was saying, it's not down that path. Even if it's, a boyfriend or a job you wanted and you didn't get it. Just trust that there is this part that loves you. When I developed breast cancer, the first thought I had was, wow, I must be so loved to get the breast cancer.
Share a little bit about that.
It was just that feeling, that's big. That was so big for me to get that. My soul must really love me.
Okay.
Because it was so big, it stopped me in my tracks. So that when something very big happens to us, don't see it as, I really must have done something wrong. Say, wow, look how much love there was. This
to get your attention.
Get my attention, otherwise nothing else would have got my attention.
So once you realize this...
I did go through and have the surgery, and I did have radiotherapy, so I want to say that. I also did complementary medicine. Mm-hmm. But I saw it gave me a door opening to things that weren't working in my life. And people always talk about breast cancer being related to a self-nurturing or a lack of self-love. And I realized it wasn't that I didn't have experiences of self-love. I had lost the self that needed to be loved. Cancer is about losing yourself, coming home to yourself. And too many women lose themselves because they prioritize everybody else as more important than they are.
That's very big, Dr. Page. Let's talk for a moment before we end on the energy body and the chakra system.
Right. So I want to say on that level that women are, in the past, were always the spiritual leaders. There was never men, it was women. And in that spiritual leaders, they made decisions about policies for the tribe, what people would do, who should stay, who should not. They chose the leaders. And if those leaders did not live up to their expectations, they would be sacked, got rid of. I'd love to see a day when that happened, that we would move in that way. And that really is when a woman is in her power. She's using all those energy centers, those chakras. So for women's chakras, one of the most important ones for her to connect to that we were cut off from is that dragon chakra, the root chakra under our feet. It's through that dragon power or our women's power flows. Mm-hmm. So in a very simple way, just sending roots into the earth is a way of connecting to that and recognizing that we were cut off from that thousands of years ago so that women wouldn't be able to stand in their power.
Could you just quickly go over the 7 chakras and what?
So I'm adding that 8th one.
Right.
It's really important
right.
so that we don't number if we can help it, because otherwise we start with 1 and then we miss out the one in the root.
Right.
So we go to the 8. The base chakra is, therefore, when we got cut off, the base chakra became our first survival one, belonging survival, which is why men and women get stressed, adrenal stress. Oh my God, I've got to do this to fit in. Mm-hmm. In ancient cultures, when you were born, your placenta would be planted into the earth and a tree would be planted on top of it. Mm-hmm. And that would be your rooting into Mother Earth.
Interesting.
We don't do that.
So what could we do for that root chakra if it's...
All I would do is send the roots into the earth. Just imagine that your roots, you have roots, and that it's being surrounded by lovely, nurturing energy of Mother Earth. Base chakra, once you do that, and I've shown this many a time in my group work, is once you root yourself, the base chakra quietens down because it's going, oh good, I don't have to work so hard anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's a very quick healer, I've come to understand. Sacral chakra is probably one of the most challenging ones because it's the chakra of relationships. Most of our issues happen because of relationships with someone or other, friends, mothers, fathers, whatever. For women, we should every month, again, if you're menstruating every month, you literally imagining emptying a bowl of all the old emotions you've got from that month and turning it into blood and releasing it. Mm-hmm. Once we no longer have a period, for whatever reason, we have to then do that more mentally or physically. And what I do is I may take a glass of water and put my hands around that glass and put into the water all the things I'm ready to let go of. And then on the new moon, I pour the water onto the earth. But what's important for women to understand is that their period is the time of cleansing. And for women who take a lot of energy from other people into their solar plexus and then move it down into the sacral chakra to be released, they don't release. So, just wanting to say, for some women who take on other people's emotions and get overwhelmed by it, empty the bowl every night.
Every night?
Yeah, don't wait for the every moon, just every night.
Okay, so be cognizant of the energies that we pull
what
in.
energies are you taking in? We take the energies in here because we don't feel good about ourselves. Celebration at the solar plexus, so important. Women don't celebrate themselves enough. What have you been doing? Yay!
Okay.
Heart, follow your heart. Listen to your intuition. Lean back into your heart. It will trust it. Throat chakra. Too many women speaking from here. You only have to listen to the media. Some of our politicians speaking from up here.
Right.
Okay. When women speak up here, they are not being honest. I want to speak to a woman who speaks from down here.
Okay.
So just learning how to breathe out and talk from here means you're going to be more honest.
Yes, I was going to say, give us an example of that.
Okay, so if I spoke from up here, if I was to speak from my throat chakra, I'd speak like this and I'd say, Lynn, no, this is what we're going to do. And actually, I don't really care what you have to say because I'm just going to tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay.
When I go from here, I say, Lynn, this is what we're going to do. And when I do that, then we'll have a relationship.
Right, and there's that heart-to-heart connection.
Yes. You'll find that when people speak from here, they're just giving information. When they're here, when women are here, we're making relationship, and that's all that matters. So there are certain politicians out there at the moment who you can hear screeching from up here in their throat chakra. Third eye is to be able to see clearly, and for women, that's their wisdom. Stepping back. What do you know? Many women know a lot, but they have been burnt at the stake for knowing too much. Women, if you see something, have the courage to say, I see that, I see what you're doing, but without judgment. Like, I see what you're doing, you can carry on doing it, but I'm not supporting it. So at the crown chakra, women have this beautiful chalice, and if we understand that women have a magnetic energy, which means we pull things in, so that all we have to do is to be open and we will pull in the energy that we can then birth during that next month, which is really what we're about. How do we clear energy? I feel that emptying the pot is very important, or emptying the bowl. Just, you can stand in a shower and just imagine yourself being washed down. I meet so many women who don't want to admit they take on so much energy of everybody else. The first step is recognizing, yeah, I get overwhelmed. Yeah, that person really bugs me.
Yes.
You know, that's the first step. Sometimes I will suggest imagining a mirror in front of you when you're talking to that person and let all the reflection go back to them.
That's good.
Yes.
That's very good.
Ground yourself, but keep in your feet, women. When you're in your feet, you're not in your head, and you'll actually make more sense and have greater wisdom.
So you're saying that sensation of being aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just focus on your feet.
Yeah.
When women are not focused on their feet, they go into their head, they go into their throat, and they become ineffectual. Nobody listens to them.
That's actually a mindfulness practice.
Yes, it is. It is.
So, Dr. Page, share with us what's new, what are you going to be doing, and where can we find you?
But I've actually also just now written a handbook of women's mysteries to go alongside 14 meditations, because I think visual imagery is a very helpful way of getting in touch with some of the things I'm talking about. Also has a lot of the rituals, because women, if they can get in touch with some of the rituals every day, would help them. And that's going to go out very soon, I'm very pleased to say. And I'm also off to both Australia, which is a women's conference, and then again after that I'm off to Brazil for another women's conference is to do with women's circles, which is wonderful. So I feel that women gathering together is a very powerful way for us to break down boundaries, talk the same language. When women talk, we bring healing.
So necessary.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Page,
Thank
for
you
working
so
to make
much.
the lives of women better. And I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.